All right, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing my season review for the third season of Stranger Things. Alright, and spoiler warning, if you guys have not seen the third season of Stranger Things, or Stranger Things 3 as they like to call each season, I like the naming convention, right? So you have Stranger Things 1, which is the first season, Stranger Things 2, Stranger Things 3, and then each episode we have chapters, right? So Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3. Very cool. So Stranger Things Season 3. So finally got a chance to watch the whole season all the way through, all 8 episodes. I did a review for the premiere episode, Susie, Do You Copy, earlier. And once it hit July 4th, Independence Day was the day that it was released. And finally today, which is the 12th now, I've been able to watch all the episodes. So about an episode a day is about how it went through for me. And the last episode is pretty extended, so it's a longer episode, the Battle of Starcourt. So yeah, spoiler warning if you haven't seen the season all the way through. I think most people who are fans of the series probably have binged it already. They probably binged it faster than I was able to. But just with my schedule and doing videos with you guys and work, that it's just how long it takes me. That's how long it takes me to watch it through. 8 episodes. So at first, when I saw the 8 episode count, I was like, oh man, because the first or the second season was 9 episodes, and it just doesn't seem like a huge episode count. But because, of course, you got to factor in there's no commercials, obviously. And the last episode is extended. A lot of these episodes are over like 53 minutes. It really is like a full season of a series. 8 episodes, but basically, this could be chopped up if you were on a commercial type network into, 53 minutes. So a lot more episodes, like 13, 14, 15, something like that, like a full season deal. So if you saw my review of the premiere, Susie, Do You Copy, you know that I enjoyed it. We'll get into some comparisons later, I think, of whether or not we think this is the best season of Stranger Things or versus season 2 and 1, and kind of where we're at with that. You guys can leave a comment below and let me know what you think about this season 3, versus season 2 and versus season 1. For me, I'd say it's somewhere maybe between season 2 and season 1. Season 2 is probably my favorite season of the series still. After season 3, but season 3 was pretty good. There was a part in the middle where I was like thinking this might be the weakest season, and then by the time it actually ended at the end, I was like, whoa, this is actually really great, and this is definitely, I can't say it's like the worst season. So for me personally, I probably put it in between 1 and 2, and with 2 being my favorite so far. So the first episode was good. Susie Do You Copy is fun. The mall rats, which is fun. So we get to see everybody again and how they're doing after this amount of time. It's the summertime, so and that's one thing I did kind of miss from this year. Now, they released it during the summer with Independence Day, so it made a lot of sense, the time of the year, what the kids were going through at that time, and what they're all feeling, what they're all up to. I did kind of miss getting to see them sort of in school, where they'd be going to school and they'd be doing that kind of regular thing, and then after, I don't know, if there's something about that just fits kind of a structure that I'm kind of used to with summer vacation. It did feel like there was something a little bit missing, that you didn't see them kind of going to school. And I love the Ghostbusters thing in season 2, also with Halloween and all that. That was really brilliant stuff. But yeah, so mall rats, you've got Steve working at the mall, and you got Dustin, who's coming back from camp and everything, and the question of Susie and whether or not she's kind of real. Right away, I kind of predicted it almost instantly. Once I saw it, I was like, it'd be too obvious if she was fake, so she must actually be real. And of course, they use that as a pretty good twist at the end of the season, where she ends up being real, which was kind of cool. And there's the fun sing-along part in the Battle of Starcourt and that, and the way things kind of go in the end. But so a good start, I think. I dump your ass, right? That's a good line from the season. That's one of my favorite lines of the whole season. It always happens. This is always the way it goes. Girls get involved with their friends, and, friends start talking them out of things. The next thing you know, you got a problem. It's like, who's she been hanging around with? This is what it is, right? Girls sometimes, well, guys do too, right? Friends get involved, and they a lot of times tend to tear down relationships. They just get involved, right? So, it's funny stuff, so I dump your ass. That's one of my favorite parts of the season. But, I was happy to see in the end that they end up, actually getting back together and being together in the end by the time the season actually ends. So the third episode, Chapter 3, The Case of the Missing Lifeguard. So it's pretty cool. You get Billy, and he's flayed, and he's been taken over and everything, and he's he's a pretty intimidating bad guy versus some of the earlier stuff. I mean, he has like a human being, versus the others, and he's got kind of the, he's got a cool look going, right? And he's got kind of the black eyes and stuff. He's a good choice if you're going to choose someone to be flayed to kind of take over. If it's not 11, because she's obviously so powerful, then he's not a bad choice because he fits kind of the bad boy attitude right away, and then, you kind of add that to it, and it just makes it even worse. And I did like to see that in the end of the season, he was sort of, 11 was able to bring him back before he ended up being killed. So he, in a way, he kind of sacrificed himself to save 11 near the end of the season there. So, like the stuff with the case of the missing lifeguard, the sauna test. Now so we bring in the Terminator character, right? So this was fun, right? Kind of the Terminator esque with Hopper, and he's kind of going after him, and you get kind of that Terminator vibe, and it sort of ends in a way that certainly reminds you of like Terminator 2. Judgment Day. I do this off memory. It's like going back right when you've got the thing and he kind of goes into it and everything. So that was a fun character to see through. At first I thought it was a little bit ridiculous, but then as you got into things, he was a fun kind of villain to see throughout the season. Also the Russians. So the Russians are one I'm kind of in the middle about. At first when I heard the Russians and that they're on American soil and everything, I was like, this just doesn't make any sense. Like, how could they infiltrate and set this up? And would they ever risk doing something that crazy? Like, can you imagine? I understand that, Mind Flayers and this kind of stuff is R&D is really important, that they understand what's happening with it from, with the Russians being involved with kind of these crazy operations where you have kind of other dimensions and you have 11 who does remote viewing where she puts on the thing and then she goes to a spot and can kind of see where the person is and kind of find out where they are and stuff like this. And so experimentation and stuff like this. Do I really think that the Russians would go so far as to do this thing under this mall and set this up in the United States? Like, if the U.S. ever found out that they had done this, it would be like World War III instantly. Right? It'd be like, there'd be nukes going off. Next thing you know, like, would they really risk that? Like, I understand that, that these creatures and this kind of stuff is the dimensions is obviously it's important to know what's going on with that. And if that's something you can weaponize for a country, that's going to be very useful. But do I really think they would risk, doing that against the states? Probably not. I don't think so. Because once the Americans find out, it's going to be all out war for sure. I can't think of how they could work their way out of it afterwards. So anyway, the Russian idea was kind of silly, but it did. I did warm up to it by the time the final season came through, and I did think like, well, if they did Americans again, I guess it wouldn't be as fun. It just kind of has kind of an unrealistic sort of vibe to it with the Russians, and it's kind of silly, and I guess it adds some fun factor to the season, and that's what they sort of wanted. But it didn't really for me, especially mid-season point. It just felt kind of like, I don't know. Also, there's another thing about the season is that it's very kind of action and on the run all throughout the season. So all throughout the episodes, especially in the middle, it starts to feel like it gets a bit tired. This happens sometimes. I've seen this with other series, of course, as you guys know. Season 8, for example, of TWD, right? Where you have all at war, and they're fighting all the way through, right? There's action constantly, and there's some twists and turns, but it's constantly throughout the season. And by the time you get to the end of the season, now this might not be as prevalent with a binge-type show where you can watch the whole thing through, but it does feel at about the midpoint like there's maybe a little bit too much action, a little bit too much running around, a little bit too much being chased by this, this Terminator-esque Russian operative, and so it just feels like it's a little bit crazy, right? It gets a little bit, that's why I missed the school aspect of it, because I felt like that brought you through a nice kind of pattern of ups and downs. And this season, just being kind of them during the summertime and kind of them at the mall and jobs and whatever they're doing, it kind of had sort of a straight through feel of kind of, it didn't have as much of the ups and downs and then a big build and then a big payoff at the end. It did have a big payoff at the end, a big battle and everything, and that was great, but it had so much throughout, it felt like it didn't quite fit that sort of, the flow of it felt a little bit off in the middle for me. We got to the sauna tests, right, with Billy, the flayed, and 11's still super strong around this time, and then we got chapter 6E, pluribus unum, and then 7, the bite, and then the battle for Starcourt. So we're getting close to the end here, so kind of give our thoughts through. There's Alexei and the other stuff that happens with the fair, and fun stuff for Jim and everything. So Okay, so by the end of the season, so I was pretty surprised in the way things went near the end of the season. I like kind of some of the twists they had in here. One of them was the Susie Do You Copy one, like I said, that she ends up being real. Some of the other ones, they go down in the Russian underground bunker facility, which how could they have built that without, I don't know. Anyway, so you got all this stuff going on, all kinds of craziness, and, certainly there's a lot of action at the end. You get Billy mixed in there, you get the Mind Flayer giant monster version, which I thought was set up nicely because last season you had Will, and I like how Will's also kind of touching his neck all the time to kind of be able to sense when it's nearby. But we always had that thing like was Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I think, where he opens the door and you see the Mind Flayer is just like this giant freaking thing, and this giant like spider thing with a big head thing, and it's like all dark and it's like black and scary and everything. And so in this one, we actually get to see, and I thought Mind Flayer was a good choice to kind of continue with this season because I felt like it was a strong enough villain as a follow-up that you could do 2 seasons with it, and it was good. And I did like it. I did think that maybe it was superior to the prior season in this one, in that instead of it being demodogs, you get this giant freaking, abomination made up of flesh and pesticides and whatever hell else is kind of built into itself. And it kind of can, slam around. It's just a very grand, big monster, which is really scary and really cool to see, especially at the end there when it comes into the glass and everything. And it's got kind of the parts that come out. And, Billy can attest to that, right? The bite where it gets just a little part does. And then kind of an Alien-esque type of feel to that when 11 has to remove it. And, afterwards she's having trouble using her powers and everything. And, a pretty surprising ending. So I liked all the fights at the end. I liked all the battles. They were great. They were exciting to see through. Really no complaints as far as that stuff goes. The stuff with Alexi was cool. The bite was exciting. And then kind of the final battle as things go through. So I liked the final battle and everything. The fireworks were fun. I thought that was all good. It had lots of nostalgic feel for me with a very Terminator-esque ending for the for Jim and the the Russian that's tracking him and everything. And so let's see. I mean, just the final battle, very exciting to get to see the whole thing through, and then get to see how it actually ends off with them kind of closing it and everything, and then the Mind Flayer creature actually dying. Just at the part where the thing seems unstoppable and it's going to kill Elle, it's going to kill everybody, and has killed Billy, and so really some kind of shocking kills at the end, right? Now here's the big spoiler. One, if you've watched this review up till now and you haven't seen the final episode, I would recommend it. So the spoiler death for this one, the big death, of course, for this one at the end is Jim. So I just man, so this one was a tough one to watch through. I was sad to see it because I did like him as a character. He was actually my favorite. Pretty much my favorite character, in the series, I want to say, which is kind of sad to see that he was killed off in the final episode here. I wonder if there's some way. The thing is, the portal was closed, wasn't it, when the thing went off? So it's like there's really no way they could, there's no dumpsters for him. Like there's no way he's going to survive this. He's dead and he's dead from the looks of things. He's not coming back. There's no way for him to come back. He was a great character to see over the first 3 seasons. I was pretty shocked at the death at the end, and I was pretty surprised. But I did like that they at least had some big character deaths in there, like Billy and like him, because they didn't, wimp out on it. They went for some big character deaths, and that's something with a series like this, which is for like PG, what does it say on Netflix? PG-13, PG-14, something like that. It's not like an R-rated series, right? So it's kind of for a younger audience too. And for Joyce and kind of the way their relationship was kind of building up. And then to see it at the end was a pretty big twist and not something that I expected to see at all. Also, the scene at the end, just like in Season 2, I want to say, was probably my favorite part of the season when you get kind of a, him in the note, he's speaking through the note to 11 and the others. And I thought it was really touching that they, really made it about change, and they touched on change, and then Joyce sort of adopts 11, doesn't she? And then, their family, Joyce and Will and John, and so they move, right? And so they're kind of gone. And it sort of sets us up for a really interesting spot to do like a 4th season, because you're getting closer now to kind of that coming of age time. You have, and this stuff happens, right? And I like it in Hopper's note that it's like, change happens, and people got to move, and this stuff happens. And I remember growing up when this kind of stuff would happen. You'd have certain good friends and stuff, and sometimes they just have to move, and you just know it's not going to be the same. And then maybe after that you try to hang out a few times or whatever, but it just doesn't work the same because you're not you're not in the same school anymore or whatever, this kind of thing, right? You don't live in the same place. And it totally makes sense to Joyce and want to get her family the hell out of there after everything that's happened. So, welcome to hell, right? Welcome to Hawkins. So I really love that stuff at the end. Some good stuff for Eleven and Mike still, with their relationship kind of growing. Some funny stuff with Hopper near the beginning there, and how he doesn't really want to let Mike date his daughter and everything. So kind of funny stuff. So it was a good season. I enjoyed it all throughout. I'm going to give it a 9.1 out of 10. I think it's a really, really great showing for Stranger Things. A great follow-up to season 2. I'm really glad they did it. They're saying maybe 5 seasons for Stranger Things, so we might get another 2 seasons out of it. And, I hope we do get at least 2. I think it's strong enough to maybe go on further than that. But, it's kind of tricky to say. Obviously, the casts that are in Stranger Things have already gotten huge notoriety. I mean, they're getting other roles. It's going to be hard to have them come back. And so, their careers are really taking off as a result of this time in Stranger Things, because it's such a great nostalgic show. It's such an awesome show. It's got a really nice mix of that old school kind of 80s nostalgia. No one is doing that type of thing. And then you get kind of the fun sci-fi monsters aspect of it, which can be genuinely scary at times and cool. And you mix in some character deaths. You've got some great relationships between the characters, like Mike and Eleven, or Eleven and Hopper, or Joyce and some of the others. And just some really great stuff all around. Really, really loved season 3 of Stranger Things. Really happy that it got to this point. We got to see a 3rd season. And, I look forward to seeing the 4th season when it eventually releases. Who knows? Maybe next year, 2020, something like that. Let's see how long it takes them to get this one done, because this season did take a while. It took almost 2 years for this one to come out. 2017 was when the 2nd season finished there. We're in 2019 now, so yeah, a couple years pretty much, man. So those are my thoughts on Stranger Things season 3 as a whole, my season review. Let me know what you guys thought. How did you feel about the pacing throughout the season? Did the Russians bother you at all? I know I saw a few comments with people like, oh, that's so stupid. So I don't know. It didn't bother me too much, and I still really enjoyed the season. I loved all the nostalgia value and the parallels to some of our favorite, 80s, 90s movies and that. And, I think these characters are really fantastic. So Eleven, Mike, and the others. And sad to see Jim at the end. But, the series has got to take some risks. They got to take some chances. And that was a pretty big one. So pretty shocking death. At least they're going for it. It's not one of those type of series where the good guys always win and there are no casualties or anything like that. That's it for this video, guys. If you liked it, please thumb it up below. You can share, you can favorite. And if you're new and you want to subscribe, let's subscribe, and I would appreciate it. That's it for this one. See you guys again soon for another video. As always, this is Trev, and I'm saying peace. Later, guys. See you soon.